Kevin and Kenny both represent a group that is particularly rare in academic medicine. And if you look, as the AAMC did, at Black men matriculating in U.S. medical schools, in 1978 there were 542 nationally, and in 2014 that small number had gone down. We see this as a very important problem that deserves a lot of attention. And as part of our addressing this issue, 2 faculty members and a resident, Kaf is a faculty member, as you know, Kojo is a resident in orthopedic surgery, and Kevin I've just mentioned, gave up some of their time and effort to be filmed for a series called Black Men in White Coats, which was a collaboration between our school and Diverse Medicine. I hope that you'll get a chance to look at those films. They're on the Office of Diversity and Inclusion website. The second goal, and don't worry, each one I get to I'm going to say less and less about, but the second goal is to have a portfolio of world-class research across the full spectrum of biomedical investigation, and in particular to strengthen our basic science departments, our physician scientist faculty, and I've already talked about that, and our research in population health sciences. In doing that, and in starting new programs, including some that you've heard about from Chancellor Washington, it's still important to support our signature areas of strength. And what you see on here is a very partial list of institutes and centers hosted in the School of Medicine. These tend to be the larger ones. We need to make sure that they stay strong and vibrant even as we do new things. I want to tell you about a few of them and what has happened in the last year or is currently happening. Starting with the Duke Institute for Brain Sciences, we are still in the process of recruiting a new director. It's taken somewhat longer than expected, but I'm very grateful to Alan Song, who is the director of BIAC, for stepping in and being very gracious about serving as interim director. MEDEX, our partnership with the School of Engineering, has 2 firsts now, a first MD, MEng, Master's in Engineering student, and a first faculty hire, Shiny Varghese, who I talked about on an earlier slide. The Trent Center for Bioethics, Humanities, and History of Medicine had to undergo some changes when its former director, Ross McKinney, moved to the AAMC. The new director is Jeff Baker, shown at the top. And in addition, Ross had responsibility for the Conflict of Interest Committee, and the new chair of that committee is Greg Samsa, and both are doing a terrific job so far. Our Center for the Study of Aging and Human Development is our only center that is older than I am. I wish there were more of them. It's been around for a long time. We're very proud of it. And it has also had an NIH Pepper Center grant for more than 2 decades. And the grant was recently renewed, doing extremely well under the leadership of Ken Schmader and Miriam Morey, with a new focus not on frailty, which has been something important in the Aging Center in the past, but flipping it on its head and looking, actually it doesn't sound too good, looking at it a different way, and this time thinking about resilience. A very important new institute is the Clinical and Translational Science Institute, led by Ebony Boulware. All this is on the left is a screenshot of the website to encourage you to go in and look at what they've got. And that circle on the right is meant to say that they really have something for everybody. And they have, Ebony and the other leadership of the CTSI have been very active in trying to make this a school-wide and actually university-wide institute. Another of the goals in this aim is to have all of our departments ranked in the top 15 nationally and most in the top 5 or 10. There are various ways to rank departments. The one shown here uses NIH funding. It's publicly available. And I'm very happy to say that quite a few of our departments are already in the top 15, including some that have recently moved there. Some don't get ranked or don't have a good equivalent, and those are shown on the right. I'll point out that this is in alphabetical order and that medicine, pediatrics, and surgery were all ranked number 3 nationally. So we're very proud of that. And we will continue to work to bring other departments up into that very top group. We have talked for a number of years now about finding ways to assure research integrity and reproducibility. And a new effort, a new office called ASSIST is going to have a big role in doing that. ASSIST, we thought about desist or resist, but ended up with ASSIST. ASSIST stands for Advancing Scientific Integrity Services and Training. The mission of the new ASSIST office, led by Marcella Sarzotti-Kelso with Lorian Torres and Joe Rusnak, is to foster an environment of excellence in scientific research by promoting a culture of accountability and integrity and providing tools and education, to promulgate best research practices, to promote the responsible conduct of research through education of various kinds, to promote best practices in data acquisition and management, and to provide solutions. So it's not just saying you have to do this, but also giving ways to do it. So the overall idea is to make it easy to do things the right way. ASSIST will work with departments and with investigators to review and help develop data management practices, to provide feedback on standard operating procedures, procedure plans for labs. Almost all of our labs now have those. To assist with the development of unit scientific culture and accountability plans, and to help new investigators get off to a good start with good lab culture. Another part of how we support our research is to provide world-class shared resources and ongoing faculty support. And I like to give a little bit of a scorecard every year on Joanna Downer's office, more formally known as the Office for Research Development, because I think this office has probably helped as many people across the school as any other we have. It was started 8 years ago. They have now helped with 130 team applications. There are several in process now. There have been 141 individual investigators helped since 2012, and more than $262 million has been awarded in grants already. And if the government would just get past the continuing resolution, I know that number will shoot up to be much higher. Another program that has really helped people across the entire school is the Shared Resources Voucher Program. Started 7 years ago. To date, there have been over 800 applications, 218 vouchers funded, so 27% success rate. That's hard to beat these days. And we've spent $1.6 million. This is a low budget program, but with a big impact. The average voucher is only $7,000, but they help our faculty do things that otherwise they would not be able to do. Rafael Valdivia, in his role as Vice Dean for Basic Sciences, oversees our core facilities and shared resources. I'm going to use those terms interchangeably. We have more than 70 of them hosted in the School of Medicine, and by best practice, they're managed locally by departments, centers, and institutes that really know how to run them and know what's going on. They are open to investigators across Duke, not just in the School of Medicine. And very recently, with big help from the Chancellor, a $31 million commitment was made to refresh and update the infrastructure for our core facilities starting last year over a 5-year period. The goal here is to make cutting-edge technologies both available and easy to use. Here's a list of shared resources that were updated last year. The light microscopy core facility. There's a new notobiotic core facility. I'll talk more about that in a moment. Cryoelectron microscopy, new animal pathology service. Viral vector core was updated, and there were upgrades for proteomics and genomics. To me, this is kind of eye candy. You get to look at all these beautiful microscopes. There's a list of them on the right. Isn't that kind of thrilling? Uh, and this is our light microscopy core facility, which has always been strong, but is now doing even better. Gnotobiotic facilities are used for microbiome research and for immunology experiments, among other things. And the point is that animals have to be kept under germ-free circumstances. What you see on the left here are isolators containing cages for mice, and on the right, individual cages that are set up so that they can be sterile on the inside. And this will also help quite a few researchers across campus. Cryoelectron microscopy is a relatively new way of imaging molecules and molecular machines, a new and a very important way. And what you see here on the right is, I guess, probably one molecule. I don't actually know what it is. It's from one of Francis Collins' blogs. But what it shows is over time, going from left to right, how the resolution of the atomic structure of that entity has improved. And so you can see it's gone from truly being a blob to having very detailed molecular structure. And this is how much cryo-EM has advanced over the course of a decade. Critically important these days for a number of areas of science, but also outrageously expensive. And so we have gotten together with UNC, with NIEHS, and in particular with the investigator who you see in the middle of the triangle here, coming down to us from NIH, to be able to get this at Duke through a lot of work of a lot of individuals. And I think it's going to make a huge difference. We also have new IT tools. This is one in particular. This is actually my research homepage, so you can snoop on me if you want. You can see I have to do my city training in October. That's the upper left. You can see a couple of my material transfer agreements in the next panel. The wonderful announcement about Mary right after that. Some of my projects, and so on. And each of these pieces can be customized so that you can have the information right there for you on this one page that you need as an investigator. And if you haven't already, I hope you will go in and play with it at least, and hopefully use it as well. Last year when I gave this talk, I mentioned another of the goals of the strategic plan was to have a Center for Population Health Sciences, and that was underway under the leadership of Leslie Curtis. This is a center which focuses on non-clinical research related to population health of a variety of flavors. Over the course of the year, Leslie and her colleagues, shown here, have gotten off to an amazing start with the center and actually are on track for approval as a new department in July of this year. We don't know yet, but it looks like that's probably going to happen. This new department will, I think, be very important in our efforts in population health, in particular complementing clinical efforts, and it will be our first social sciences department of a sort. Third, I think everyone does better work when we're in a campus, on a campus that's inspiring with beautiful lab space, or at least enough lab space, and hopefully enough clinician offices. We still have work to do on trying to find more clinician office space, but I want to show you progress that's been made in identifying research space. This is a building with a very creative name, awaiting a very wealthy donor from this audience or any other. Medical Sciences Research Building 3 on Research Drive, very close to the GSRBs and MSRBs. I have to admit, after almost 10 years, I still don't really know which is which, except that this is the MSRB 3. But they're all beautiful buildings, and this will be too. And it will help us a lot with a problem that you know we have had for a long time, which is not having enough wet lab space. Another part of the solution there is downtown, where the DCRI also exists. And we, as the School of Medicine, are anchor tenants of what's now called the Durham Innovation District. I started to put the streets on this slide to orient you, and then I wasn't 100% sure, and I didn't want to embarrass myself, but you can see there the Carmichael Building, Chesterfield Building, and the DCRI in a couple of buildings, and this is actually a projection of what this area downtown is going to look like in the future, which is part of the reason that I didn't have full confidence in naming the streets. But what I can do is show you the inside of the Chesterfield Building, which, as you know, we have been developing for a couple of years. This is, as the other buildings are, or the Carmichael Building is, this is an old tobacco warehouse building with a lot of potential, but that needed a lot of work. Up in the upper left-hand corner, you can see a drawing of what it's supposed to look like. And if you look just down below, this is a recent photograph taken by Scott Gibson of the inside of that building. You can get oriented with that blue rectangle. This building will have people from the School of Engineering and from NC Biolab, but in addition, it will house the GCB Omics cores, the CTSI, and several faculty labs, including Joanne Kurtzberg's. Finally, and can I hear from the physical therapy group? Would you like to applaud or anything? Okay. After many years, there is now a plan for permanent educational space for physical therapy, also one of the goals of the strategic plan. There will be a new educational building to be shared by physical therapy in the School of Nursing and potentially others. And it will not only give a home to physical therapy, but also facilitate interprofessional education. The final goal, and at least part of this will be very short. No, actually it will all be relatively short, but I just want to touch on a couple of aspects of trying to expand and use our resources wisely to achieve financial security, both in the near term and in the future. We're very happy that the School of Medicine saw a $50 million increase in NIH grants between FY15 and 16. That not only helps investigators do their work, but it also helps bring in the indirect cost recovery that allows us to pay for the things that we need for research in the School of Medicine. We had a very successful campaign, $1.3 billion for the School of Medicine, over a $970 million goal in the Duke Forward university-wide campaign. We have some new professorships through that, although never enough. And this building that we're in, as most of you probably know already, was nearly fully funded with philanthropy. So this has been a great result. I started to list all of the people in the development office who had contributed and realized pretty quickly that I wasn't going to have time. So instead of calling out many important names, I'll just thank Ellen Medeiros, the vice president, and Sarah Nicholson, who is particularly tasked to the School of Medicine and our alumni affairs, but many others, including Dottie Williams, who I see back there, who many, many people who have helped us a great deal. We can't just bring in new money. Well, we could, but I don't think it's likely. So we need to use what we have more efficiently. And Billy Newton and Scott Gibson have, among many other things, worked on trying to make our administrative functions more efficient. And two of the ways that they've worked on that include setting up a research administration support resource, which currently serves 5 departments and central grant activity, and also a human resources hub, which currently serves 13 clinical departments. The idea is to both make things more efficient, ideally save money, but also to provide better service by having concentrated expertise in these hubs. I want to give a shout out to Lee Goller, who probably is not here. Is she? No, but please tell her thank you. She is the new head of compliance and audit for the university and is taking a new approach to compliance, which I think is really geared towards doing what is reasonable to do, but not going to an extreme to do the most aggressive things we can do. So we want to be good, we want to be compliant, but at the same time, we need to be reasonable about how we can also get our work done, and that's very much a priority for Lee. So that's the end of my update on the strategic plan, and now I'd like to give you a few closing thoughts. And There are probably many other things I could say, but this is what came to mind. First, education should be central to all that we do. We have multiple missions, but what sets us apart from non-academic medical centers and from research institutes is that we have outstanding learners and we have diverse programs to educate future physicians, scientists, physician assistants, physical therapists, and other highly skilled professionals. Second, I believe we should have a research portfolio that does span the entire biomedical spectrum, from basic sciences to population health, with good representation at every level in between. During the economic downturn, we continued to recruit outstanding basic scientists when some of our peer schools decided that was a luxury that they couldn't afford. I hope you'll agree now that that paid off for us. And certainly from what I've heard from colleagues outside of Duke, that's enhanced our reputation. We've traditionally had very strong clinical research, and we've worked to make it even stronger. We're enabling translation through the CTSI and through other efforts. And assuming that it's approved, our new Department of Public Health Sciences will fill a critical gap as a second quantitative department and, in a sense, our first social sciences department. Our faculty is our greatest permanent asset, both more permanent and probably greater than even those great buildings. And I think that when we strongly support and nurture our faculty and help them succeed to their full potential, then everyone wins. And so this is why we've invested so much in faculty development programs, in bridge funding, in seed grants, in vouchers, in mentoring, and in shared resources. I think we have advantages that some of our peers don't have. These advantages attracted me to Duke 10 years ago, and I think they're as important now as they were then. We can be nimble in ways that many other institutions can't. We have a tradition of collaboration across disciplinary boundaries, and we've continued to further enhance that interdisciplinarity. We have an ongoing hunger to be even better. I think easier for me as a former outsider to see that hunger than perhaps people who have been here their whole careers. But people don't get satisfied with where we are and just want to be better, and I think that's a real strength. I think the history of our school, being relatively isolated in its early years, helped create the positive culture of nimbleness and sharing, along with a huge sense of institutional pride. But it comes with the risk of being inbred and uninformed about other ways of doing things that can hold us back. So I think we need to continuously inject hybrid vigor. That is, to bring people from the outside as well as promote people from the inside. And we did this with me, with Jean Washington, with a number of our department chairs, bringing people in who had seen things done in different ways and could bring better practices, hopefully not worse practices, to Duke. I think that this does make us stronger. This mixing of insider and outsider is healthy, and I think it's really critical for the institution we want to be. Diversity, inclusion, and equity are fundamental to our excellence and to our success. We've made strides in diversifying our educational programs, our staff, and our faculty, but we still have a long way to go. That said, the commitment of the school's senior leadership gives me confidence that we'll keep moving in the right direction and reap the benefits of a community where many different perspectives and backgrounds are not only represented, but are truly valued. And then finally, our imaginations and aspirations massively exceed our resources, and this needs to be continuously addressed. I think I can say unequivocally that resources have been limiting for us, and you all know that in your parts of the institution. I think we have the potential to do much more, really, in every area if resources can be found. Our $1.3 billion yield from the capital campaign is great, but as usually happens, most of that is restricted to particular uses. And so other sources need to be tapped, and I'm grateful that Chancellor Washington is committed to substantially expanding the resources available to the School of Medicine going forward. So I'm going to read the bottom part first, or not read it, but just say it. As happens every year when I arrive in this room and people start coming in, I think of probably literally hundreds of things I should have a slide for. So I want to apologize for all of the many things that should have been in this talk, but have been left out this year and in earlier years. This is my 10th State of the School talk, so I also want to very much thank all of you for a great 10 years.